Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to paint this easy mistletoe. A full list of materials that I used and timestamps are in the description below. Let's start with the first leaf. I'm using a larger brush to apply a bunch of the sap green color to the center of the leaf. Then I'm using a smaller brush to work out all those little spikes. The leaf should not look flat, so I'm applying different amounts of pigment with my brush to it. For example, some of the spikes have more green pigments than others, and the center is pretty light. You can really play around with this and have fun with it. Next, I load my brush with a darker green and I drop it into the wet watercolor. I'm using the darker green to give the leaf a great color variation. I apply some to some of the spikes, and I'm applying more to the center of the leaf, where the major vein of the leaf would be. I also darken up the area where the berries are, just to kind of show that it might be in the shadow and therefore darker, but this is really up to you. Just have fun with it. Next, I'm painting a leaf that is not touching the first leaf to make sure that I don't get any unintentional bleeds and blooms in the leaves. Again, I apply a bunch of the light green color to the center of the leaf, and then I'm using a smaller brush to work out some of the spikes. I'm making sure to not touch the first leaf, and I try to keep the entire second leaf wet in order to be able to apply the darker green later. If you don't feel confident to not touch the first leaf, you can always give it a few minutes to dry before you start with the second leaf. Every leaf should be unique. For this leaf, I decided to drop some more of the darker green pigment on each of the spikes. I try not to mess around with the green color too much and just let it bleed naturally. I just drop it in to the tip of the leaves and then just let it bleed. Well, of course, I'm putting some of the darker green in those areas that would be shaded by the leaf that's sitting in the front. With this leaf, I'm washing out my brush. I dry it on a paper towel, and then I'm going to soak up some of the pigment in the very center of the leaf where the vein is. This way I create a really soft highlight. Let's repeat the same method for the third leaf. I'm applying the light green, then I use a smaller brush to work out all the spikes, and then I do apply some more of the darker pigment. Every leaf is unique, and imperfections just make it look even more interesting. In order to avoid bleeding, I leave a really small line between the two leaves so that they don't touch. If you don't feel confident leaving the small line, you can always let your leaf dry before you paint the next one. With this leaf, I'm going to do something different. I will be applying the darker green on each side of the center vein of the leaf. Well, and then I'm just dropping in some of the darker greens around the area where the berries are placed, because the berries are in front of the leaf and this would be a shaded area. And I'm just going around the leaf and dropping some green in wherever I feel it could look more interesting with some darker pigments in that area. For the center vein, I'm going to dry off my brush as well and just soak up some of the pigment to lift it off and have the center vein be a really light area in the leaf. I recommend letting this dry completely before you paint in the berries. If you feel confident painting around the leaves, of course you don't have to let it dry. It just makes it easier. I'm dropping in some of the red pigment to the center of the first berry, and then I distribute it around the berry and I create a clean edge. If your berry doesn't turn out to be perfectly straight or round, don't worry about it. Berries have different shapes and sizes. Also, imperfections will probably be hidden under the metallic marker if you decide to use that later on. When painting the second berry, I'm also leaving a really small fine line between the two berries that doesn't have any water on it to avoid bleeding. I'm cleaning off my brush and I dry it off on a paper towel, and then I soak up some of the pigment in order to create a highlight on the berry. The light source for all these berries is in the same spot, so the highlight should always be in the same area, for example the top right corner of the berry. You can also drop some water in the wet pigment and let the water push the pigment aside in order to create a highlight. I don't think that highlight is as white and shiny as I would like it to be, so I'm just mopping up some pigment. Let's work on the last berry. I'm using the same method that I used before. I drop in the pigment, I distribute it around the berry, and I leave a fine line towards the other berries. This berry is behind the other two berries, so I'm dropping in some more pigment where the shadow would be. I'm not actually painting a shadow, I'm just hinting towards the fact that that area is darker. As long as the other berries are still wet, I can always go in with my dry brush and mop up some more of the pigment to create the highlight or enforce the highlight. Well, and that's how you paint a really easy mistletoe. I feel festive today, so I let the painting dry completely, and then I'm drawing in some details with a metallic marker. I paint the little curves around the mistletoes in between the spikes, and then I'm adding some more details onto the leaves. The marker I'm using here dries immediately, so I don't need to worry about smudging it around, but some markers have a drying time. I'm drawing outlines around all the leaves, and I'm also drawing outlines around the berries. I'm also highlighting the center line of the leaf with a golden line. Let's round up this painting with some glitter glue. I found two different glue sticks in my art supplies, and one is more chunky than the other. I'm using the chunky one for the area outside of the mistletoe, and I will be using the other for the mistletoe itself. When you paint with glitter glue on watercolors, be sure to not smush it around too much, because the glue is actually liquid and it will lift the pigment. Well, and we're finished. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. I will see you soon with another video.